Good evening, everybody. We're going to call Thursday, May 25th, 2023, City Commission meeting of the City of Coconut Creek to order. This is meeting number 2023-0525R. Mr. Kavanaugh, are we streaming?
Yes, we are, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Kavanaugh. Thank you, Madam Brooks, for your musical selection. I missed it because I was doing a tour, the I Will Remember You by Sarah McLachlan. And it looks like I'm making the next musical selection. So that'll be interesting, to say the least. I'm reminding all my colleagues to please speak into the microphone, mute when you're not speaking into the microphone. I'm going to turn to our city clerk. I'm going to ask Mr. Kavanaugh to call the roll of the city commission and administrative staff.
Thank you, Mayor. Commissioner Wasserman,
Here.
Commissioner Brody, here. Commissioner Raley,
Here.
Vice Mayor Welch,
Here.
Mayor Rydell,
Here.
City Manager Brooks,
Here.
City Attorney Pyburn.
Here.
We have a very special pledge of allegiance this evening. Detective Corey, if I can get you to help lead up Girl Scout Troop 12107 to the dais. Okay. We are blessed this evening to have a Girl Scout troop earning their democracy badge. They did a tour of City Hall and they will be leading us in the pledge this evening. So I'll wait for all the girls to get up here and it will be followed by the Girl Scout promise. I'm going to ask everybody to please rise for the pledge. All right. Okay. Now that was good. All right. I'm going to ask Miss Anderson and Ms. Rosenberg to come on up and lead the girls in the Girl Scout pledge. Give them a round of applause. Hold on. Wait, what's that? Girls. Miss Yvonne, we're going to take a picture? Can you just take a picture?
Yes.
Now, girls, everyone take a look. Miss Anderson, Ms. Rosenberg, you got to get up in here. Come up in here, please. Our troop leaders.
Can you squish in just a little? Okay. Perfect. Ready? Go. Got it. Hold it.
Wonderful. So girls, if you can, we're going to give you a round of applause. I think my two friends here, my Vice Mayor, Sandy Welch, and Commissioner Jackie really have a little something for you. So if you guys want to go on down, you can meet them. We're going to take a 1-minute recess, Mr. Kavanaugh. Mr. Kavanaugh, are we back on?
Yes, we are, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Kavanaugh. That's a great way to start a meeting. All the little voices. This meeting is being conducted live with a physical quorum present. The procedures for public comment will now be explained by the city attorney.
Thank you, Mayor. The material for today's meeting is available online at www.coconutcreek.net. Members of the public were advised in the notice for this meeting that they could address the city commission by emailing comments not exceeding 400 words to commissioncomments@coconutcreek.net or by calling 954-973-6772 to leave up to a 3-minute comment on the city's dedicated public comment voicemail. The city provided a simple set of instructions explaining how the public may submit their comments, which were published in the notice and on the city's website. In addition to all live public comment presented at today's meeting, all public comments that were received by email or phone message prior to noon today will be included as part of the record for this meeting and will be considered by the city commission before any action is taken.
Thank you, Madam City Attorney. We have 2 presentations this evening. We have 2 city presentations, and I know we have the Transit Authority here as well. The first is a proclamation. I shall read the proclamation, and I know we have Susan and Nancy from Moms Demand Action here to accept the proclamation. Whereas every day, more than 120 Americans are killed by gun violence, and more than 200 are shot and wounded, with an average of more than 17,000 gun homicides every year. And whereas Americans are 26 times more likely to die by gun homicide than people in other developed countries. And whereas every year, an average of 1,057 people in Florida die by gun homicides and 1,803 are wounded by gun assaults. And whereas support for the Second Amendment rights of law-abiding citizens goes hand in hand with keeping guns away from dangerous people. And whereas Hadia Pendleton, a 15-year-old teenager who marched in President Obama's second inaugural parade, was tragically shot and killed just weeks later in Chicago. Whereas to help honor Hadia, the 120 Americans whose lives are cut short every day and the countless survivors who are injured by shootings every day, the National Coalition of Organizations has designated the first Friday in June as National Gun Violence Awareness Day. And whereas the idea was inspired by a group of Hadia's friends who asked their classmates to commemorate her life by wearing orange, choosing this color because hunters wear orange to announce themselves to other hunters in the woods, and because orange is a color that symbolizes the value of human life. And whereas the tragic events of Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School, where gun violence resulted in the loss of 17 students and faculty and the wounding of 17 others, brings greater attention to the need for awareness in our community. And whereas gun violence prevention is more important than ever, as gun homicides and assaults are concentrated in cities with more than half of all firearm gun deaths in the nation occurring in 127 cities. And whereas anyone can join this campaign by pledging to wear orange on the first weekend in June 2023 to help raise awareness that gun violence in America and to honor the lives of gun violence victims and survivors. And whereas we renew our commitment to reduce gun violence and pledge to do all we can to keep firearms out of the wrong hands and encourage responsible gun ownership to help keep our children and our communities safe. It's resolved by the City Commission that June 2nd, 2023 will be National Gun Violence Awareness Day. It's signed by myself, the Vice Mayor of the Commission, and certified by the City Clerk. And we will encourage all citizens to support their local community's efforts to prevent the tragic events of gun violence and to honor and value human lives. I know we have a coalition of you guys here, and I thank Susan and Nancy for always being here every year. And I thank the rest of you guys that are here, and I'd love to present this proclamation to you.
Good evening, everyone. Nancy Fry, 5341 Flamingo Place, Coconut Creek, Florida, 33073. As a volunteer with Broward Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America, I'd like to thank the mayor, the vice mayor, and the entire commission on behalf of Moms Demand Action for issuing this proclamation declaring June 2nd as National Gun Violence Awareness Day. That being said, after the recent news from Nashville, Louisville, and frankly, most everywhere, and with the fact that gun violence is now the leading cause of death for children in the United States, and especially as we just passed the one-year remembrance of Uvalde, if we need a proclamation to make us aware of the gun violence plaguing our country, then we're not paying attention. The first Friday in June has been declared National Gun Violence Awareness Day in honor of Hadia Pendleton, who, as Mayor Rydell mentioned in the proclamation, was tragically shot and killed at the age of 15. Hadia's friends, who like her were young Black women, started this tradition because orange is the color hunters wear for safety, which carries the message that people are not prey and should not be in danger of being shot. Today, we ask you and the public listening to make a note on your calendar to wear orange in honor of gun violence victims and survivors on Friday, June 2nd. We also want to extend our gratitude to city staff and especially the Coconut Creek Police Department for partnering with us and our Be Smart program. We know we are all safer when firearms are stored unloaded, locked, and separate from ammunition. Our Be Smart program explains that gun owners don't need to choose between storing guns safely and securely and maintaining quick access to them. Ultimately, secure gun storage prevents kids and other at-risk people from accessing guns. For those that aren't familiar, the acronym Be Smart stands for Secure Guns in Your Homes and Vehicles, Model Responsible Behavior Around Guns, Ask About Unsecured Guns in Other Homes, Recognize the Role of Guns in Suicide, and Tell Your Peers to Be Smart. You can visit besmartforkids.org to learn more. And we want to extend a special thank you to Chief Arnell for helping us initiate this partnership with CCPD, and an even bigger thanks to Sergeant Hendricks and Scotty Lehman for working with us, especially with our Be Smart lead, Mia Ahmed, who could not be here tonight, to hand out free gun locks at city events. And I hear there may be an educational video coming out soon for residents as well. Thank you again to the City Commission for declaring June 2nd National Gun Violence Awareness Day. And I hope we will get to count on the fountain outside here among our landmarks lit up orange on next Friday. Thank you.
Thank you. So we have our next presentation. Number 2 is a presentation recognizing this year's Teen Political Forum participants. I see Bernadette, but I'd be remiss if I just passed it to Bernadette because I think our vice mayor should be involved in handing some things out as well. And I think
I just want to say that I think I told them at the debrief meeting that several years ago when I brought the idea to the commission, and if I had to dream the perfect scenario, it would have been the night of this year's forum. So I think we had I think I was fortunate enough to have the trifecta in Bernadette, Yvonne, and Leo. And the Powerballs were Dr. Bernhardt from Broward College Academy and Vicki Laporte from ATC that consistently came meeting over meeting. So, home run, just saying.
you want to go step down and do the awards as well. Sandy?
No, yes.
Thank you, Mayor and Commission. The mission statement of Coconut Creek's Teen Political Forum is to provide teens in Coconut Creek with a platform to be heard by our elected officials. This year's Teen Political Forum was a great success. It was designed, marketed, and implemented by 13 of our outstanding high school students, attended by more than 160 high school students, and included 7 esteemed panelists, including Senator Polsky, Representative Hunchofsky, Commissioner Bogan, School Board Member Nora Rupert, our very own mayor, vice mayor, and police chief. Tonight, we're recognizing those 13 students that pulled everything together. And it's been a long time since many of us were in high school, but if you will remember, sometimes things happen and come up. So we only have a couple of those students here tonight, but I'm going to go very quickly through their names and we'll recognize them at a later date. I would also be remiss if I didn't give a shout out to a couple of people, including our police department, which was outstanding and amazing and supported the Teen Political Forum in full force throughout the year and at the event. And also to the League of Women Voters, who had a table to help students register to vote. And also to the high school students, their principals and the assistant principals and their staff who helped get the students to the event, which is great. Students, as I call your names, please come forward and remain remain on the stage so we can take a group photo with the commission. And then we're also going to recognize a couple of the school administrators. From Atlantic Tech High School, I'm not sure if any of them made it. We had Alyssa Abraham, Jaden Barros, and Abigail Burke. From Monarch High School, we had Alana Lewis and Sabrina and Serena Ralph. Did I get it right? Come on up. Ah, there's Alana. Great. From North Broward Preparatory School, we had Zachary Appel, Emily Frost, and Zachary Weinbrum. Okay, and from Broward College, College Academy, we had Samantha Dumazel, Tasfia Howlatter, Brianna Martin, and I know Dracaria Miller is here. So we want you guys to hang out here for a second. We just want to recognize a couple more important people who helped make this event a success. So from Junior Achievement, we wanted to recognize Lori Salarulo and Leanie Smith. Neither of them were able to make it tonight. I do want to point out that this year's Team Political Forum was so special in large part due to its location at Junior Achievement. I heard students at the event talk about how it brought back memories of being at Finance Park in 5th and 8th grade. They were really psyched as they were walking down the hall, and it just made it a great event. And Leanie made sure every aspect of event management was taken care of. Her attention to detail is amazing. For those of you who think mine is, you have to meet Leanie. She's incredible. We couldn't have done it without her, and it ensured a successful event. So we have a certificate for Leanie and a special gift for Lori Salarulo that we'll present at a later event. From Broward College, Mr. Bernhardt could not be here. However, I know Dr. Roll is here. So if you could come up on the stage. We wanted to recognize Broward College for being an amazing partner this year. It's the first time we've really had this amazing partnership with a couple of our schools. And not only did your school physically bring over the seating to the event. It was over 300 chairs, set them up, to break them down, which was amazing. Your staff also built a 24-foot stage, which didn't exist before the event, and ensured that it was able to happen. So thank you so much for that participation. And we look forward to working with you next year. Your gift will ensure you think of us every single day. Dave Thomas Center, I want to recognize Stephanie Horn. I don't think she was able to make it tonight. She was an incredibly active participant. She attended every single meeting. And even when her students were unable to attend, she still attended to the very end, even at the event. So I think that's incredible. We have a certificate to recognize her. And finally, from Atlantic Technical High School, I need to bring up Vicki Laporte, who's an amazing partner of the city. And I don't think her director, Nita Rancourt, was able to be here. Okay. So Vicki has been perhaps the most active administrator of all of our high schools. She's been involved in Team Political Forum from the very first year. She is the rock behind ATC's overall participation. She attends virtually every single meeting with her students. And that's undoubtedly why they won the trophy for, well, they've technically had it. This will be the 5th year running. We'll see if that holds for next year. And we also want to thank ATC for being such an amazing partner for the city. This year, they provided the entire sound system, which traveled from ATC to the event to make sure the event could happen. And they had 2 amazing staff who helped run it. And so we have certificates for them as well. And now that you're up on stage, we do want to, I know Sandy wants to be the one to give you the trophy for the most school spirit, as you had the highest percentage of students attend out of all of the high schools in the city of Coconut Creek. 18% of your students attended. Right. It's true. It's true. It's true. I do know Mr. Cecil wants to get it next year, so you're going to have a race on your hands. Okay. Well, it is percentage of students attending, not total students, so anybody could win. All right. Well, if you guys want to have a group picture, and if the commission wants to come up. I'm good. I'm reading. Yvonne, do you want to get in the picture?
You get it.
We'll both get in the picture. All right. Okay. All right. All right.
Perfect.
All right, everybody, here we go. 1, 2, and 3. We got it.
When's tip off tonight? 8:30? Okay, thank you. Item number 3 is a presentation of the Broward County Transit Premium Mobility Plan. Mr. McCoy, Marty McCoy's here to do a brief presentation. I turn it over to you. And he's the Broward County Transit Assistant General Manager for Service and Strategic Planning. Thank you for being here this evening.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners. My name is Barney McCoy. I'm the Assistant General Manager for Service and Strategic Planning for Broward County Transit. I want to thank you for the opportunity to present to you something this evening that we as the county are very excited about. Got a few slides here, and what I'll do, want to respect your time as much as possible, so I'll speed through these. As you're aware, the transportation surtax passed in November of 2018. And at the point that surtax passed, the county made a commitment to fund a series of transportation and transit related projects across the county for the next 30 years. What I want to do this evening is talk about the introduction, background, plan overview, implementation plan, program risk, and the summary next steps. As I mentioned earlier, there was a desire to define a vision for transit across the county over the next 20 years. We wanted to do that with premium transit services that were modern, convenient, attractive, safe, and reliable. We wanted to make sure that we had solid goals for this program. So we mirrored our goals against the MAP Broward Mobility Advancement Program, and that we want to make sure we integrated and serve the community, which is our job as transit operators. We want to make sure that we provided or implemented equitable transit solutions, regardless of your socioeconomic status or background. Make sure that it was sustainable, environmentally friendly, make sure that we were able to improve mobility for all, and most importantly, to make sure that we were able to enhance economic development across the county. So what do you gain? At the end of the 30-year plan, you'll have over 200 miles of new premium service, approximately 23 million, an increase of 23 million trips. We'll have a 100% electrified bus fleet. We'll implement a concept known as new intelligent transportation systems, which speaks to things like traffic signal priority and queue jumps. And we'll make sure that as these capital investments are rolled out, that they are blend in or work with the built environment for the respective municipalities. We want to make sure that we also provide a connectivity between the 3 biggest trip generators in the county, being the airport, seaport, and convention center. I mentioned earlier about economic development. It's a fact in the transit world that for every $1 billion invested, you get a return on that investment, or you create about 50,000 jobs. So over the life of this 30-year plan, it's projected to bring in $16 billion. If you just do quick math on that, we're anticipating creating about 320,000 jobs over the life of this plan. Those jobs will be construction related, will be a catalyst for economic development. It'll be a foundation for transit-oriented development and affordable housing, which I think we can all acknowledge is a problem here in the county. And it'll also provide a footprint to expand the participation for the small business community. Methodology. The process for the plan itself was built on data. We went through just basic transit steps, isochrone analysis, which essentially takes every quarter across the county, identifies trip generators, business activity, origin and destination, and looks at travel times between these points in order to create a network. There's an expectation that the FTA will participate in the funding for these programs. So we made sure that our ridership projections met their standards. We then moved over to costing the plan. We looked nationally for other agencies that were implementing these types of services to determine what their transit and operating maintenance costs would be. And lastly, but not least, we want to make sure that we touch bases with the respective municipalities and stakeholders to make sure they share the same vision. Phases of the project delivery. We're in the planning process now. Again, there's an expectation that the state and federal government will participate. The project development and environment and NEPA process are specific to the state and federal funding requirements. Point that those are concluded, we'll move into design and also at that point into construction. What you have here are the modes of service that were recommended from the Primo plan, commuter rail, light rail transit, bus rapid transit, and a concept known as high frequency bus. If you look to the left, there are additional columns that speak to things like the intelligent transportation system, whether we would operate the service in a dedicated or shared right of way, the frequency of the service, which simply means if you're standing at a point or any point along the corridor, is how often you would see the next bus or train come through, the potential for ridership, and the capital costs and operating costs. And what's key to note here is that although the commuter rail carries more customers, the operating and capital costs are actually quite higher for the light rail transit. So what's the plan? What you have before you, what you see now is a busy map. But what this map shows is what the county envisions as a network for transit services over the next 30 years. What you have here, what's specifically recommended by Primo, is 11.5 miles of commuter rail, 23.3 miles of light rail transit, 76 miles of bus rapid transit, and 100 miles of a concept or term known as high frequency bus. Now, what I'll do for the next slides is quickly walk through these corridors to get to the areas the projects that are specific to the city of Coconut Creek. Broward Commuter Rail South, 11.5 mile alignment on the FEC corridor, 3 stations, Hollywood, Fort Lauderdale, projected opening date of 2027 with an estimated investment of about $297 million. Airport Seaport Convention Center connector. There's always been a desire to connect these 3 activity centers. It actually predates me in the county. But what this does is start us right off with 3.5 miles of light rail transit, elevated guideway, projected opening date of 2028 with an estimated investment of about $1.25 billion. Okay, as you move further north from the convention center, we would travel up Andrews Boulevard to downtown Fort Lauderdale. That provides additional 3 miles of light rail transit, projected opening date of 2031, and an estimated investment of about $442 million. You continue westward once you get to downtown Fort Lauderdale along Broward Boulevard to State Road 7. This gives us 4 additional miles of light rail transit. The dotted lines here are potential alignments for the future based on additional studies for either for light rail transit along either Sunrise Boulevard or Commercial Boulevard to the city of Sunrise. Projected opening date is 2035 with an estimated investment of about $930 million. Okay, we make a transition here to the concept known as bus rapid transit. The first bus rapid transit is proposed to run from Seagrass to Sawgrass along Oakland Park Boulevard. It gives you 15 miles of bus rapid transit, approximately 16 branded stations. There is a desire to operate in exclusive transit lanes where there's available right-of-way. Projected opening date here is 2028 with an estimated investment of about $226 million. Next corridor is the 441 corridor. The proposed plan takes us from Commercial Boulevard south to County Line, and this is where we introduce the concept known as the high-frequency bus. It would run from Commercial Boulevard up to Sandalfoot. The high-frequency bus concept simply acknowledges that there is a need for a higher level of transit services than we currently provide on the corridor, but there's not enough demand there now or even projected in the near future to trigger the capital investment required for light rail transit or bus rapid transit. But again, the proposed alignment here gets us 15 miles of bus rapid transit, approximately 16 stations. Again, there's a desire here to operate in exclusive transit lanes where feasible. Projected opening date of 2030, estimated investment of about $221 million. Next corridor, Power Line, that would take us from Broward Boulevard up to Sample Road, 10.5 miles, approximately 10 branded stations. Same concept that we would like to operate in exclusive transit lanes where feasible. Projected opening of 2033, estimated investment of about $198 million. University Drive. This is being proposed with the same concept as State Road 7. Bus rapid transit from Commercial Boulevard to County Line, and the high frequency concept from Commercial up to Westview Drive. The blue portion here gets us 16 miles of bus rapid transit, approximately 16 branded stations, projected opening date of 2035, and an estimated investment of about $334 million. Commercial Boulevard. Okay, Commercial Boulevard, there's a lot going on with Commercial Boulevard, as you can see from this map. Now, the proposal is to run from Seagrass to Sawgrass on this, but the portion of the corridor that was identified for bus rapid transit is the 5.5 mile piece between US 1 and State Road 7. From A1A to US 1 and from State Road 7 to Sunrise, we would introduce the concept again known as a high frequency bus service. The blue portion here, though, represents 5.5 miles, approximately 10 branded stations, Again, a desire for exclusive transit lanes where feasible, projected opening date of 2036, and an estimated investment of about $113 million. What you see here is the dotted line, though, and again, based on the results of the data from the survey, there's a potential based on how the development moves along Commercial Boulevard that actually may be slated for light rail transit at some point in the future. Sunrise Boulevard, again, bus rapid transit, Seagrass to Sawgrass, 14 miles of bus rapid transit, approximately 12 branded stations. Again, a desire for exclusive transit lanes where feasible, projected opening of 2038, and an estimated investment of about $240 million. Again, you have the dotted line concept here, and we saw the same results or the same type of data for Sunrise as we did commercial, and that there's a strong possibility here, depends on how development happens in the future, that westward piece from State Road 7 could actually be light rail transit. So implementation, how we get this done. This is our 5-year look ahead. Right now, we're in 2023 completing the PRIMO study. 2024 and 25, we're going to what we call the pre-launch activities. That's going to look at things like bus procurement to implement the high frequency service. We've also got a study commission that will start later this summer that's going to look at BCT's existing fixed route structure that includes local fixed route, community shuttle, express, and limited stop. And it's going to make recommendations to redesign that service to feed into this network of premium services. I mentioned earlier about the desire for state and federal participation. The NEPA and PD&E process speaks specifically to those requirements. We'll go into what's for design development and also workforce readiness. The county has not undertaken a project of this magnitude or type before, so we have to make sure that the workforce is ready in terms of size and subject matter expertise. 2026, the first high frequency corridors will be launched. 2027, Broward Commuter Rail comes online. In 2028, Oakland Park Bus Rapid Transit and the Airport Seaport Convention Center connector are expected to open. What you have here is a 15-year implementation schedule. Far left shows each one of the corridors that I mentioned early, followed by the service recommended mode, be it BRT, LRT. You have an identification here of the schedule, project duration. It tells where we are in terms of current status, and also the target revenue service date. High frequency service. These are the corridors that were identified in the plan of saying that they deserve a higher level of service than we're currently providing with our fixed route services, but they're not at a point yet that would trigger the investments needed for light rail transit and bus rapid transit. This is meant to show resource loading for us in the county. 2027, 28 will be our heaviest years, in that we will have 8 projects in some form of implementation at that point in time. How do we get there? Again, I mentioned earlier about resources. We want to have to fully leverage internal and external. It means we have to make sure the workforce is right size, be it internally. We're also looking to procure consulting services, general planning consultants, general engineering contracts as well to help us with the workforce. We're going to look at pursuing alternative delivery strategies that may just be design, bid, build, operate, maintain, construction modified at risk, but we're going to have to look at alternative methods than we traditionally do in the county. We're going to need to generate fast track procurements in order to get through this process. Seeking and securing alternative funding sources. Again, there's a desire that the state and federal government participate in these projects. And last, continuous improvement. As we move through each one of these projects through implementation, there's an expectation that we'll have a lessons learned through each one of them. So as we move through it, there's an expectation there'll be some efficiencies gained and expediency. Program risk. What we've heard to date is that the program is aggressive, and we as a county we acknowledge that it is an aggressive program. We want to be transparent with the municipalities with that. We also wanted to share the risk for the program that we're aware of as they stand today. Market pricing volatility. If you're trying to procure goods or services now, the volatility within the pricing can cause problems with your budget projections. Schedule uncertainty. Again, that goes back to our material and equipment availability. Consensus building. We're going through the process now, working with informing and meeting with the cities and their electeds to propose the plan or present the plan before them. Again, the plan was based on a data-driven approach. But again, that's not to say that everyone's going to agree with it. We've got the federal and state reviews. If we're seeking their funding, their specific requirements that they'll have in terms of review process that we have to meet. Again, I mentioned the project delivery adoption, major third-party agreements. There's a desire that transit-oriented development will be a part of these program or projects as well. That means we may have to enter agreements with private property owners. The regulatory risk that's specific to the project development environmental processes. Funding requirements, state and federal government both have different funding requirements. I mentioned earlier about the desire to operate in exclusive transit lanes. There begins a conversation about right-of-way. The property availability and acquisition speaks specific to right-of-way acquisition. I mentioned earlier about workforce readiness and agency organizational maturity. We have to be right size, and if not right size, at least have access to the subject matter expertise that we'll need to push the program forward. And then certainly being able to manage the public expectations as we move forward to implement this plan. Next steps. We believe this plan will be transformational. I've been with the county since January of 2009. And when I got to the county, some of these projects had still been through various phases of planning at that point in time. Right now, we're in a position where we got the planning done and also the funding via the surtax to fund this. So we think the plan will be transformational. It'll give us 200 miles of commuter rail, light rail, bus rapid transit, and high frequency bus. It'll provide the connectivity between the major activity centers in the county. And most importantly, it will provide the opportunity for enhanced economic development. Having said that, though, we will need the help of our municipal partners with this as we need it when we pass the transportation surtax. So you saw a lot of pretty slides this morning. You got to pay for it. I'm sorry, this evening, rather, you've got to pay for it. Our planning level estimates at this point indicate that the program or project will be $4.4 billion. Again, the transportation surtax is expanded to pay for some of this, but there is an expectation that you'll have both state and federal participation as well. So what's next? We briefed our county commissioners individually for the second and third week of April. We presented the presentation that you saw this evening before the Transportation Oversight Board, April 27th. Right now, we're going through the pre-adoption public outreach. That outreach will continue through June 12th. The commission workshop was May 23rd, and that's actually where we presented the plan that you're seeing now formally to the county commissioners. They did question us about the public involvement efforts that we'd had to date and what those would look like moving forward. And then we're going back before the county board on June 13th to get a formal adoption of the plan. Okay, that's the end of the presentation. I'd be more than happy to answer the question. Again, I did rush through it. I was trying to respect your time, though.
I mean, it's a topic that you could talk all day on, honestly, the importance of it, candidly. Anyone on the commission have any questions or comments? Commissioner Brody?
So what we're saying here is that to fund this, you're going to be coming back to residents to help pitch in for this?
No, sir. We will be coming back to residents just to make them aware of the plan and make sure that they have buy-in and consensus on the plan.
So it's not going to cost anybody in our city any money?
No, the transportation surtax is the city's contribution. That's the county's participation to this plan. The additional funding will be sought from the federal government and the state.
Commissioner Wasserman and Commissioner Bailey.
So a high frequency corridor. Please enlighten me for a moment.
A high frequency corridor, as you saw here, those are corridors where we currently have existing bus service. But based on the process and methodology that we use to develop the plan, they're not quite at a point where they would trigger in terms of current ridership, projected ridership, demographics of growth along the corridor to trigger the type of investment needed for light rail transit or bus rapid transit. So what we're talking about doing is essentially making sure that at least during the peak periods, you'd have at least buses coming through there every 15 minutes on these corridors.
All right. Thank you for that presentation.
Yes, ma'am.
Sir, mass transit and affordable housing go hand in hand.
Yes.
This is an enormous amount of funding required. So we have to make sure it's utilized to the max. And how do we ensure that? By making it as convenient as possible to our residents. So the connectivity is extremely important, and the efficiency. So I'm hoping that's going to be the caveat that sails this through.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Vice Mayor.
No, just quickly, and I know this isn't under your purview, but even today, if we had the traffic signalization the way that it was presented to us, that it would be we could have higher frequency movement on our major arteries. But I know that's not factored in here, but I know when staff recommended the proposal, we heard it at the MPO as well. So it's also extremely important to in the way of jobs. Did you not want to speak to that, Sheila, or are we just? Okay, connecting to the two casinos
Oh, sure.
in the way of job
In fact, I
workforce.
I appreciate the opportunity because I had the great opportunity to talk to Mr. McCoy about that very issue. And for years, we've had conversations with the Seminole Tribe about providing some type of light rail and connection between the Hard Rock and the Coconut Creek Casino with the development potential there. It's something that we've discussed just briefly with the tribe, and we just talked about having a follow-up conversation where we might get them to the table. So, our ask would be to have that dashed line, even if it's just a future line on the map, so that it's open for consideration.
Because we know that the majority of their workforce is public transportation.
Yes, in fact, we met with Larry Buck and he was very excited about any of the transportation options that we're working on, the circulator, micro transit, because his employees are using transit.
Right. Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
John.
One more question.
Yes, sir.
So on these corridors, what is a normal 24-hour usage? Is it at capacity? Is it at 50% capacity, 70% capacity?
It depends on the corridor. And Commissioner, I do not have that data, but when we were looking at identifying the segments, the level of service for each corridor and those specific segments was a part of it. I can follow up and get that information to you. I do not have it, but it was a part of consideration when we went through the analysis.
Yeah, I'd really like to see the data on that to make sure that the utilization that we have now is part of this whole project to make sense. I'm a
Understood.
logical kind of guy.
Understood.
And if the data says we need it, then I'm all for it. But if the data's obviously leaning towards, if we're at 50% capacity and we're spending $400 million to put a transit system in, I'm going to be questioning
Understood.
the decision-making on that part
Understood.
as a guy who pays taxes in the state.
Yes.
So if you could provide some data to me, I'd really appreciate that.
Will do. Yes, sir.
Mr. McCoy, just to be clear, there's no ask. You're coming as part of your outreach that is mandated by the county in their adopted process, correct?
Yes, sir. Absolutely,
Okay.
Mayor. Yes, sir.
So I want to just kind of govern. No, I'm not saying that, Commissioner Brody. I'm just saying there's no ask. There's
No, sir.
This
There's
is
no
an
ask.
education, just like the ILA that
Yes, sir.
ironically is on tonight about waste. Yeah, fitting timing. Or when the school board's doing a referendum, essentially not asking for anything other than education, which is part of the process that the
Yes, sir.
county requires on these projects. Is that fair?
Absolutely. Yes, sir. That is correct.
That's all I got. Thank you for coming and we appreciate your time.
All right.
And there's a really good basketball game on tonight.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for your time. Have a good evening.
Let's see how many more times I'm going to say it. We're going to go from input from the public. Mr. Kavanaugh, did anyone submit electronic comment?
No, they did not, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Kavanaugh. And I'm looking at the list. We have Mr. Madero signed in on a non-agenda item.
That is correct, Mayor.
Is he the only one for a non-agenda item?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Maderos, you got 3 minutes. Please come up, state your name and spell your, or say your name and give us your address for the record, please, and then we'll start the time.
Good evening, Jorge Maderos, George Maderos, 921 Northwest 42 Avenue, Coconut Creek, Florida, 33066. Honorable Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners, Madam City Attorney, Madam City Manager, and the gentleman City Clerk. I want to talk to you about an update for our Coconut Creek Boulevard improvement. Dr. Roll was here previously. She's been working very cooperatively with myself in improving the look and moving forward this project. These were the last pictures I'd shown you. Now we're looking like this. So they've come out, they've cleaned up, they've moved back the vegetation so that there's less areas to hide in. So I went the wrong way. Here we go. That's where we were at. This is where we're at now. This is what the side view was from the bridge. This is where we're at now. You can see that whole section has been cleared out. Currently, we're also working on the unsafe structure, which is behind the fence, to get that removed. It looks rather nice from this picture compared to actually in person. To go back briefly to the bridge. The bridge has been declared an unsafe structure by the Florida Department of Transportation for both pedestrians and vehicles. So we'll be cooperatively between the college and myself, and my wife Lourdes will be reaching out and communicating with FDOT to see how they can participate and who actually has ownership of this bridge, because that's in question. Unfortunately, there is also damage being done by residents with all-terrain vehicles. We've been reaching out to the police department. They've been increasing the patrols. And so far, nobody's been really caught doing it, and they have continued on occasion damaging the property even further. So I wanted to thank Dr. Roll, Mr. Murphy, who's the Dean of Business Affairs, and Ryan Powell, the Facilities Manager. We've shifted to working with them instead of folks at the college level, because we had a few people leave, and it's actually this transition has been very helpful and moving the project along a lot faster. On a side note, I want to thank Wayne and Harry for being very receptive about the invasive plants in Donaldson Park and following through and working on mitigating and removing invasive species, plants and trees that have been growing in our cypress trees and the such. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else want to speak on a non-agenda item that's signed in? I know only Mr. Madero signed in. Anyone else? Gone. We got a consent agenda coming up. Anyone want to pre-pull anything before I read it like the Micro Machine Man? No, seeing none. We're going to move items 4 through 3. I'm going to read 4, 5, 6, and 7. 4, a motion approving the minutes from previous City Commission meeting 2023-0427 WS and 2023-0427R. Item number 5. Resolution 2023-088, a resolution authorizing the city manager designee to renew the attached mutual aid agreement for voluntary cooperation among the Florida Department of Law Enforcement and participating agencies to form the Miami Regional Operations Center Child Abduction Response Team. Item number 6, resolution 2023-092, a resolution approving the submittal of a letter from the city manager to Broward County requesting the conveyance of title to a portion of the right of way for Column Road from Broward County to the city of Coconut Creek, as shown legally described in Exhibit A. Item number 7, resolution 2023-015, a resolution accepting the Florida Local Government Cybersecurity Grant, authorizing city manager designee to execute the attached grant agreement with the State of Florida Department of Management Services for cybersecurity and technical assistance. Is there a motion and a second?
Move it.
Second.
It's moved by Vice Mayor Welch, second by Commissioner Raley. Mr. Kavanaugh, call the consent agenda 4, 5, 6, 7 is read.
Commissioner Wasserman,
Yes.
Commissioner Brody,
Yes.
Commissioner Raley,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Welch.
Yes.
Mayor Rydell.
Yes, regular agenda item number 8, resolution 2023-095, a resolution authorizing city manager designee to execute the school resource officer agreement with the school board of Broward County for a period commencing August 16, 2022 and ending August 11th, 2023. I need a motion in a second.
Move it.
Second.
Moved by Vice Mayor Welch, seconded by Commissioner Brody. Who's doing it? Jeanette? Butch? Carol? Bueller?
It appears that Butch is doing it.
Good evening, Commissioners. This is simply an agreement for the year that we're in, 22 through 23, at the increased rate that was agreed to with the help from the Broward City Managers Association and the Broward Chiefs of Police. I think in the amount of a total of $1.27 million. This does not address the upcoming 3-year contract negotiation, but simply the year we're in.
Robust report. Does anyone have any questions? Seeing none. Mr. Kavanaugh, call the roll on the item.
Commissioner Wasserman,
Yes.
Commissioner Brody.
Yes.
Commissioner Raley,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Welch,
Resounding yes.
Mayor Rydell.
Yes, item number 9, resolution 2023-090, a resolution approving the interlocal agreement with Broward County and other participating municipalities and ILA, providing for the city to participate in the solid waste disposal and recyclable materials processing authority of Broward County, Florida, attached here to and incorporated herein as Exhibit 1, authorizing the mayor to execute the same and authorizing the expenditure of funds. I need a motion in a second.
I
Second.
Moved by Vice Mayor Welch, seconded by Commissioner
Raley.
Raley. Harry.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice
Robust
Mayor,
report is to you.
and Commissioners. I'll be as brief as possible. This won't be a little longer, but In 2019, Broward County and Broward County municipalities entered into a memorandum of understanding, or MOU, regarding a collaborative study and subsequent development of an integrated solid waste and recycling system. Coconut Creek approved the MOU and resolution number 2019 TAC 156. The solid waste working group was established. And in 2022, the first amendment to the MOU was approved by Coconut Creek via resolution number 2022 TAC 022, including waste characterization and waste generation study. The county funded 50% or up to $500,000 of the not to exceed $1 million price tag. Coconut Creek contributed $16,587.03 based on population. SCS Engineers was selected to complete the waste characterization of waste generation study. The report will be a snapshot of current municipal solid waste conditions in Broward County, including how much waste is generated by single-family, multifamily household, commercial, and other entities generating waste. The report will also break down the data by types of waste generated. The final document will provide statistical, legally defensible basis for taxing through special assessment once a long-term direction and assets are identified. The waste generation study is expected to be completed by fall of 2023. This brings us to the ILA. Solid Waste Working Group determined that it was necessary to create a solid waste authority through the solid waste interlocal agreement between Broward County and Broward County municipalities. The Solid Waste Working Group unanimously approved the interlocal agreement for the solid waste disposal and recyclable materials processing authority of Broward County, Florida, or referred to as the authority. The authority's mission statement includes the following purpose: to develop and implement a long-term environmentally sustainable, transparent, innovative, economically efficient plan and approach to disposal, reduction, recycling, and reuse of waste generated in Broward County. The goals are A, encourage recycling, reduction, and reuse in order to divert waste from landfills seeking to ultimately reach zero waste. B, support regional solutions in other counties. C, comprehensive public education campaigns. And D, engage in or support research and development into disposal, reduction, recycling, reuse, and reutilization of the latest technology to create a sustainable, resilient authority, solid waste disposal, and recyclable materials. The following is a brief summary of the ILA. The effective date is the day after it has been executed by municipalities representing 75% of the total population of Broward County plus the county. Term is 40 years after the effective date with 2 10-year extensions. Initial startup costs per section 5.4 of the ILA is $2 million per year. Broward County will pay 50%, and the remaining 50% is to be paid on a pro rata basis by population. Coconut Creek will pay $78,461.60 if there's a 70% participation rate. Or Coconut Creek will pay $58,846.20 if there's a 100% participation rate. The ILA creates a governing board which will have representatives from all participating cities and county that meet at least 2 times a year. The ILA creates an executive board with representatives from the 5 large cities, 3 medium cities, 2 small cities, and the county, with meetings to take place as determined by the executive board. It will create a technical advisory committee with representatives from each participating city in the county to provide technical advice. Executive director will be appointed by the executive board. An authority attorney will be appointed by the governing board. Per year contributions will continue until the authority is able to impose a special assessment. The authority pursuant to the ILA will develop a master plan of operations and facilities amendment. The document is required to be adopted by the authority for strategic and operational planning purposes, as well as describing the authority's operations in detail and providing a comprehensive planning framework and strategic direction to manage the system's waste across Broward County. The master plan will identify existing and potential assets, both public and private, identify potential paths forward to implement a long-term asset utilization through public-private partnerships or public ownership. And from the basis of special assessment, once long-term assets are associated with costs and goals are identified. The master plan of operations and facilities amendment will be subject to further approval by the county and participating municipalities. The city and all the city and all municipalities will have the ability to opt out of the ILA if we choose not to approve the master plan of operations and facilities amendment. To date, Coconut Creek has committed to the participation in the Solid Waste Working Group, Technical Advisory Committee to the Solid Waste Working Group. Additionally, the city committed to the MOU for waste generation characteristic studies, estimated to be completed this fall. And that was at the cost of $16,587.03. If Coconut Creek approves the ILA, the city will be committed to initial startup costs of the authority to develop the master plan, which, as I mentioned before, is approximately $78,000 if 70% of the population adopt the plan, or $58,000 if 100% of the population adopt the plan. Per year, contributions continue until there's a way to make the special authority can impose special assessment. The city will also be committing to amending existing agreements with solid waste franchise to align with the authority's directives. Benefits to the residents include flow control of materials, which will provide cost reduction through economies of scale, potential for long-term publicly owned infrastructure and potential transparent and program transparency, standardized messaging and opportunity to achieve county and state recycling goals, potential opportunities to identify and implement cutting edge and recycling technology. The following language was added to the ILA at the request of Coconut Creek. Section 6.5.4, meetings open to the public. Section 6.7.2, executive director must not be contracted to consult for or lobby on behalf of any party. Section 7.1.1.6 references the prohibition of deep well injection. 7.1.3, requirements for affirmation vote of impacted party or parties before the authority takes an action or amends the master plan in a way that would have a disproportionate adverse effect on that party. Section 10.1, requirements for the executive board to appoint an external auditor to complete an annual audit of the authority's receipts and expenditures. Section 11.8, reference to the April 2015 settlement agreement between Waste Management, Inc. and the city of Coconut Creek, limiting the type and quantities of waste that the Waste Management can place in the landfill. This concludes my presentation. Thank you for your time. Go Heat.
Harry, just a brief question. Is there any, have you received any information as of today of any municipalities that intend to not pass the ILA?
We have not received any information of any municipalities that have not passed the ILA. We have received information that 7 municipalities have approved the ILA, in which are Parkland, Lauderhill, Weston, West Park, Deerfield Beach, Sunrise, and Tamarack.
Thank you. I'll turn it over for commission comment on this point. I mean, listen, I'm going to say this. We got to pass it, right? I don't love certain things that they dismantled for more city strength. Candidly, I think they threw out some of the recommendations of the solid waste working as I've tracked it, in my opinion, but I don't think there's any choice of moving forward. Sandy?
No, I agree. And I think it was not for raising the issues during the time of the solid waste working group meetings. So I think we had great guidance and due diligence from the technical group and the city attorney as to what should be in there, but Terrell summarized it, I think, best, and I'm paraphrasing that, you know, there are still some sticking points, but it is a fluid document, and the rest of the items can be addressed after, but we have no choice. I mean, we need to go forward looking at it as a regional effort, but it's not going to be tomorrow.
Agree with you, Vice Mayor. Anyone else?
I'd just like to say thank you all for hanging in there. It's been a long journey to get to this point, and just thank you.
It's interesting because I think this is going to trigger waste management as well, because they've sat back on some items waiting for the response of the solid waste. Yeah. So I just, we'll obviously maintain our vigilance and all that. Since seeing no other comment, I do have someone signed in on this, Mr. Medeiros. It looks like you signed in. You want to speak on this item? Harry, I'm going to let Mr. Medeiros speak on the item, and then we'll take some closing remarks.
Jorge Medeiros, 921 Northwest 42 Avenue, Coconut Creek, Florida, 33066. Hello again. I just want to say thank you to present past commissioners for the support of the ILA. After being present at many online meetings and in person, it was a long and arduous process that it went through. And this can has been kicked down the road quite a long way, to the point where I understand you by your comments, Mayor, that there's no other choice but to move forward. But I think that this is a great beginning for something to be built regionally. And not every city gave the support that Coconut Creek gave to the formation and the moving forward of this ILA. So I want to say thank you to all of you for your hard work and dedication.
Thank you. Anyone else have any other additional comments? Seeing none, Mr. Kavanaugh, call 9.
Commissioner Wasserman,
Yes.
Commissioner Brody,
Yes.
Commissioner Rayleigh,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Welch,
Yes.
Mayor Rydell.
Yes. Resolution 2023-079, a resolution rescinding resolution 2022-001 and enacting a new resolution authorizing the mayor and city manager to their designee to execute the attached maintenance agreement with Broward County for the maintenance of patterned pavement crosswalks at the intersections of Copens Road and Lyons Road in conjunction with the county's Copens Road Improvement Project. Mr. Stoudemire to make the report.
Good evening. So what this is a maintenance agreement with the county for the pattern pavement crosswalk at Copens Road and Lyons Road. You will recall.
Scott, I'm sorry. Yeah,
What's-
I apologize. I need a motion in a second.
Move it.
Moved by Commissioner Brody,
Second.
second by Commissioner Rayleigh. Now we can continue with the item. I apologize.
Sure. So
I just watched the clock tick and get distracted. Go ahead, Scott. Oh, this is a good report. Anything else? I'm joking. Go ahead.
So again, this is simply a maintenance agreement with the county for the pattern pavement crosswalks at the intersection of Copens and Lyons. You will recall that with the mobility project for Lyons Road, we entered into a very similar agreement for the signalized intersections along the corridor that were in county right of way. We postponed this one because we were well aware of the county's Copens Road project. We've asked them to do the pattern pavement crosswalks as part of that project. They've agreed to do so. However, they're requiring the same maintenance agreement, and that's what this is,
Which we don't have any issue with. So
which we don't have any.
anyone have any questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, Mr. Kavanaugh, call the roll.
Commissioner Wasserman,
Yes.
Commissioner Brody,
Yes.
Commissioner Rayleigh,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Welch,
Yes.
Mayor Rydell.
Yes. That leaves us with the quasi judicial item of the evening. We shall consider a quasi judicial item this evening. Madam City Attorney, please explain the city's quasi judicial procedures.
Thank you, Mayor. Florida courts have determined that there are certain types of matters, including item 11 on tonight's agenda, that are to be treated differently than other items considered by the commission. Most decisions of the commission are legislative in nature, which means that the commission is acting as a policy-making body. In contrast, when a matter is quasi-judicial, the commission is applying existing rules and policies to a factual situation and is therefore acting like a judge and jury in a courtroom. In such cases, the courts have decided that due process and fundamental fairness require that more formal procedures be followed. Will the clerk please confirm compliance with the notice requirements?
Public meeting notice requirements have been met for item 11.
And will you please swear in the witnesses?
Will anyone wishing to speak on this quasi judicial item, please stand and raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth? Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? When you come forward to speak, please state your name and address clearly for the record. State whether or not you have been sworn in and whether or not you understand the rules of the proceedings.
First, I have to read the title of the ordinance, if I may, Mayor. Ordinance number 2023-011, an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Coconut Creek, Florida, approving the site plan request of Gunther Motor Company for the property generally located at the southeast corner of North State Road 7, US 441 and Cullum Road, legally described in Exhibit A attached hereto and made a part hereof, providing for findings, providing for conditions of approval, providing for severability, providing for conflicts, and providing an effective date.
Is there a motion?
Move it.
Second.
Moved by Vice Mayor Welch, seconded by Commissioner Wasserman.
Do you have any disclosures on this item?
Wasserman,
Nope.
Brody,
Nope.
really?
No.
Welsh,
I drove by.
Rydell is a no.
Thank you.
Scott, are you doing the presentation?
I'm going to do a very brief overview. The applicant is here. There's like a 5-slide PowerPoint presentation they'll go through very quickly.
Thank you.
However,
Go for it.
okay, so just very quickly, this is an addition, a Mitsubishi addition to the existing Gunther Volvo Volkswagen dealership. It's a very minor addition. It's about approximately 1,300 square feet. It will add a small showroom with some office space. What I did want to point out is that because this is in the Main Street area, there is an existing PMDD that is in place for this property. This site plan is consistent with that PMDD and staff is recommending approval. That is my presentation.
We have a slideshow.
Good evening. My name is Ariana Murilla. I'm with Saus Architecture.
Should be loaded up there. Is it?
Not on.
It's not on.
No. This is the old one.
This one should be.
Right here.
You need to turn that one on, is that?
That's what I did. All right,
Sure.
thank you. All right, so this is a very small expansion to an existing building for the Volvo Volkswagen site. So as you could see on this site plan, this is the existing Volkswagen building with their existing garage building in the back. And this is the existing Volvo building. And in the back, it's the expansion that we're proposing for the new Mitsubishi. So this project consists of a small 1,370 square feet an addition for the Mitsubishi. The expansion will take place on the existing inventory car parking. So we will not be taking any landscape areas. And I have a small this elevation that you see up on top will be the elevation that you would see from the main street. And this elevation that you see on the bottom side, it's the side elevation that you would see from the side tenant. And so this new expansion, the materials consist of stucco over CMU exterior wall construction, impact glazing wall systems, light gray paint as a field color to match the existing conditions of the rest of the building. That's it. It's really small.
Mr. Steinmeier, do you have any questions for the applicant?
I do not.
Madam applicant, do you have any questions for our staff?
I don't.
Okay. I'm going to turn it over to, it's a public hearing. So at this point, I'm going to open the public hearing. The public hearing is now open. Does anyone have anything to say in regarding this item for the public hearing? Seeing none. The public hearing is now closed. We're going to have commission discussion. Can I just ask one question? Is the only reason that they had to jump through all these hoops because it's the PMDD?
It
just seems like an awful lot of hoops for like a very tiny expansion.
It does trigger our site plan requirement.
Okay, that's all I have.
Trust me, if there were a way to not do it, we would have.
No, I'd say it because I mean, especially with some of the existing dealerships, I mean, this is a very small thing. Anyone, questions, comments, concerns?
No, I would just say that the dealership probably would say the same thing. They wouldn't have done this on purpose if they hadn't been required.
Well, I didn't know. The question was, and I don't know if Commissioner Brody's in some way mocking me. Okay,
I didn't know he was.
just making sure. Got something to say, you got to say it, Commissioner Brody. The point of my question was due to the fact that the Main Street PMDD, is that what triggered the requirements of making them go through this process, or was it just the nature of?
It is our standard code requirements that triggered this particular site.
Okay, that's all. That's what I wanted on the quasi judice. Okay, I got it. Questions, comments?
Nope.
Brody, anything? You sure? Okay. Anyone else have anything to say? Scott?
I would just like to add that it's nice to keep the Mitsubishi dealership in the city. This was previously located at the Coconut Creek Auto Mall, where Hyundai Genesis was, and Gunther has picked it up and made it a home.
Do you know what happened to the Mitsubishi Eclipse? It's a good convertible back in the day. All right, that's all I got. Anyone, do you have any, Madam Applicant, do you have any closing remarks you'd like to make?
No, thank you.
Staff, do you have any closing remarks?
Nope.
Anyone on the commission have anything in closing on this quasi judicial item? You have any clips? Quite the midlife crisis. All right. Now we shall debate the item. If there's no other debate, I need a motion in a second to move it. And we're moving. I need a motion in a second to move the Gunther.
Second.
Read it, please. To move the Gunther Motor Company PMDD site plan modification application.
Move it.
Second.
But moved by Vice Mayor Welch, seconded by
Thank you.
Commissioner Wasserman. Mr. Kavanaugh, call the roll.
Commissioner Wasserman,
Yes.
Commissioner Brody,
Yes.
Commissioner Rayleigh,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Welch.
Yes.
Mayor Rydell.
Yes, now we shall have the city manager report, the highlights of the city manager report.
I'll promise not to take over an hour. First, I would, I chose the song I Will Remember You tonight in honor of Memorial Day. So I wish everyone a good Memorial Day come Monday, which leads us into shortly thereafter, June 1st, which is hurricane season. So we did get today the outlook for the hurricane season. It's they're projecting 12 to 17 named storms, 5 to 9 hurricanes, and 1 to 4 of them being major.
There's the Hurricane Karen on the list this year.
Woo.
All
All right, be careful.
Please continue.
So with that coming before us, our leadership team did have a tabletop exercise last week, led by the fire department to ensure that we are prepared and ready. And I recommend to all of you and to our community to do the same. And then just on another note, I had the pleasure of going to 2 high schools so far, Monarch High and Coconut Creek High School, to award $19,000 in scholarships to each of those schools from the Seminole Coconut Creek Education Foundation. And I have Atlantic Technical High School coming up on May 31st. So the Education Foundation Board expanded the scholarships this year. Previously, they had been awarding them to the top 10 students of each high school. And then this year, they awarded them to the top 20 high school GPA students, plus the top 10 who had the most service hours, community service hours. So in each school received $19,000 in scholarships for that. So it was an enjoyable experience. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam City Attorney.
Good evening. I just wanted to mention that I sent out the kind of annual memo of the legislative update that of legislation that was recently passed that may impact the city. If you have any questions, let me know. I'll keep it short. That's all I have tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam City Attorney. Commissioner Wasserman.
Nothing would make me happier than for you to miss the Heat game. So let's get it going. I'm just kidding. Huge shout out to the Touch a Truck was very cool. I touched lots of trucks, different shapes, different sizes, and it was a really cool event that we put on. Missed the ribbon cutting today because I was at the Coconut Creek SAC meeting, learning about the Coconut Creek High School budget today with 2 of my peers here. Very enlightening to see what's going on at Coconut Creek High School. And Dr. Neer has our full support with whatever they're trying to do. And I had a good conversation with her and continue to have good dialogue, especially being in the education field. I did speak with the city manager recently and the city attorney about something I talked about during my campaign. About a Creek homegrown project for people who work in our city staff, firemen, policemen, teachers, encouraging and helping them purchase a home here in the city. So we talked a little bit about that and hopefully can provide more information down the road in looking at the affordable housing budget line that we have and also some grants some grants. So this is a little update from me and I'll pass it over. Thank you.
Commissioner Brody.
Well, I really don't like the heat, so I'm going to take my time. Just joking, you guys. I know it's thick, it's a tough crowd. First, I have gone to a lot of Park and Recs events lately, and I'm gonna say this with the deepest part of my heart. I am absolutely floored at how many great events we've had in the city with Park and Recs. I mean, it was one right after another. We did the foodie truck, we did the touch the truck, we did the Little Mermaid, which, I mean, that was a crack up watching that. I mean, it was amazing, those kids out there doing that. They had so much fun. And it was packed. I mean, 300 people. I mean, the stadium in the back, the back wall on the basketball court was packed. All the chairs were taking. Amazing. And I think what our Park and Rec department does is by far the best I have ever seen in any city. I am amazed. So, Wayne, make sure your team hears this. Make sure they understand from the deeper part of my heart, I am amazed and I love them to death. So keep it up. Second thing, the Poets Bench that was brought up to us a while back. Have we had any movement on what we're going to do with that thing? Because
What?
the bench, remember Laura came in here with the bench and the little mailbox for the book exchange a while back. Yeah.
Wagon?
Yeah, when I had to hold that piece of wood up for 20 minutes.
I think it was like a little reading thing, wasn't it?
Right. It's like a bench with a mailbox in it, so you can exchange
A little
books.
library.
Yeah.
I really wouldn't call it a bench.
I was carrying a bench. I carried a bench. Yeah.
Okay.
But needless to say, can we try to get some traction on what we want to do with that? Okay.
Yes, of course.
All right, thank you. The other thing, I brought up a couple times about doing a survey, anonymous survey with the city staff. I want to bring that back up here and kind of get a consensus of, doing that. I looked through a few of them. There's three really good ones. And the top one that stood out in my mind was Survey Monkey, because I've used it before and I know that you can do it anonymously, and there's a free version and then there's an expanded version. I really think that it'll give us a good idea what's going on, because we're so, not always in the city working with everybody. It'd be nice to see what's going on and how they feel and how we can improve our work environment throughout the 500 plus employees in our city. And just looking for somebody to kind of, see if that's something they want to.
I would support that. I think we're insulated at the top, and I think understanding how employees view management is important. So it is definitely something I would support and give consensus to. Wasserman, Jackie, Sandy? Okay. Yeah, so I guess there's consent.
I think that is typical every few years.
Okay.
In most organizations. I don't think it's out of line
So then I guess
to do that.
I mean, I don't want to misspeak, John, but Karen, direction is given to generate a anonymous survey of, I guess, staff level employees of upper management and just report on the progress of it.
Yeah, I'd even say I'd be willing to put my name on that too. If they want to see how we're doing as a commission, as elected officials, I'm fine with that. You don't get better unless you know what you're doing. And I think everybody's feedback's important. Yeah. Yes.
I think there's a pro to doing something like that. But at the same time, I could certainly understand why, and being isolated where we are, or insulated, is that the word you use? Whatever you used.
Insulated, not isolated.
Insulated. I think it could cause tension, even if it is anonymous. It could cause talk around the workplace. It could cause water cooler discussion that I think could lead to toxicity. So I don't know if I'm fully on board with that at this point, but because all of a sudden you're now fueling potential flames. Working at a school, if all of a sudden we send out a random survey to the staff, it's eye-opening, yes. But then it also could contribute to more of that feeling that maybe people that Commissioner Brody has spoken to. I don't know, but I don't know if it would get the results and have the impact that you might be looking for.
Sure.
So this is something that we have, because there has been some discussion about employee surveys. I have discussed this with our HR director, and in the HR world, those kind of anonymous employee surveys are not really the way to go nowadays, and that there are other approaches to consider because of the exact same things that Commissioner Wasserman was alluding to. So if I could have flexibility in how to go about doing that, we will find a way to accomplish the goal of getting the sentiments of the employees, but maybe not necessarily in the format of an anonymous survey.
So my fear in that is that if we do it in a way that edits the data, and I want people to speak from the heart, that's how we just, in the business world, we do this. This is not
We're
an
certainly
unusual
not
thing.
suggesting that the survey be doctored in any way.
No, what I'm saying is we're not putting it out there to let them voice and have an opinion of what's going on. We're never going to know. And we do this all the time in the business world. Like we do them every quarter where I work and where I've always worked. It's not unusual to do these. So sometimes you just need to know where the chips lie. And if it comes back positive, you're going to be happy. If it comes back negative, then we got to work on the negatives.
I understand, and I'm not suggesting that we don't do one, and I'm not recommending that we don't do one. I'm just asking for the latitude to do it in a manner that will be successful for everyone.
Let's streamline and let's do this. Next meeting, report back what you believe options are. The commission will debate it and give direction. Fair?
Okay.
Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think we have to respect our HR person's opinion.
Well, listen,
At this
I think
as
comment
well.
boxes are important. It goes,
Yeah.
the generic comment box goes back to the basic business. Tell us how you're doing. Leave a comment box. It's important. If there's toxicity here that we're insulated or isolated from, let's use Mr. Wasserman, use either word. We need to know as a commission. And then we need to hold the people that we can hold accountable. I
Right.
don't have a problem with that, but it needs to be delivered in the right way. I mean, so you're afraid at your school, everyone's gonna be like, we don't like Vice Principal Wasserman.
I'm not afraid of that at all. But
But the reason I say it is so we'll give Karen the opportunity to give us options and Pam could chime in on what's the best practices and we go from there. Is that okay, Commissioner Brody? Okay. You want to say something else, Jeff? And you want to keep beating the horse or are you good? Okay. Commissioner Brody, anything else? Okay, Commissioner Rayleigh. Nothing. You're up. We've already.
Okay, I was just taking a nap. I'm sorry. First of all, I would like to congratulate the Florida Panthers on their win. And also I'd like to congratulate all our graduates this year. Congratulations, especially Coconut Creek High School's first graduating Cambridge class. A great accomplishment. Very impressed with the schools, all our schools and their productivity. And so congratulations to teachers, students, principals. It's come to my attention and I've been asked that if at all possible, when we redesign our courtyard, the government center, if possible, it's a long trek for our seniors and our anyone that has a disability or handicapped from the parking area to get into the building. If at all possible, we can take into consideration a handicap spot closer to the building. Okay. That's all I have. Family and friends that have lost loved ones in the military. Our prayers are with you.
Vice Mayor.
Okay. So I know this is not to report on places we've been, but I cannot overlook the SAFE class, and it was the last one. And not only that they teach basic ways in which you can defend yourself, but they had a lot of teenagers at the class that I attended. And the detective and the sergeant really went out of their way to impress upon them other ways they could protect themselves, social media, just et cetera. It was very impressive. So I don't know if that happens at every class, but especially our teenagers really. And I commend the moms that brought their teenage daughters there too, because that's what we need to do. And I want to give a shout out to Karen. The city tour that we took, some of the things that we talked about, I've seen them happening around the community and I really do appreciate it. And residents have noticed too and sent message to let you know how much they appreciate it. And also, thank you for whoever made it possible for the resident request that YouTube now be able to be viewed. Our meetings are able to be viewed in the past or in the future rather than just live streamed. So I don't think anybody thanked someone. I don't know who made it possible. No, I know she's the one that asked, but I don't know whoever here made it happen, but I want to say thank you.
Assuming one of the guys over there have to stay late and work on it,
Well, whatever they did,
right? Am I right?
it deserves a thanks. See you Monday.
Just want to, I got to give we had a good representation at the Coral Springs Chamber Classic Golf Tournament. I just need to say that Wayne Toby uses the smallest putter I've ever seen any human use. And it was the city of Coconut Creek was represented by myself and Captain Hofer and Lieutenant Nordlus and Director Toby. Very small putter, very good with it, but it really is a freakishly small putter. But it worked very, very well. So we were well represented at that. The League of Cities most recent meeting, I had to miss that. And the reason I wanted to share it is when you appointed me as the director of the League of Cities, I was asked to keynote Wasserman, you'll find this appreciative. The judiciary is now an honoree of some Jewish people in the judiciary and legal system. They asked me to speak as an elected official that is Jewish, specifically noting the significant rise in anti-Semitism in the legal community. So that was an event that I was at, and some of the statistics from that have been happening around Broward County in the past literal year are troubling that we don't really acknowledge. So I wanted to say that the Heater tonight, go Heat. So we got some exciting stuff on the sports front. I'll see everyone on. Well, oh yeah, I forgot one thing. The young lady who came from Winmore and had a little bit of a issue with Commissioner Raley wrote an email to me, directed to me. I think she CC'd Madam Brooks and Madam Pyburn on it, asking of a response of me. I didn't think it fitting to write maybe what I wanted to write or what I thought about writing, just due to the nature of the email. I'm asking you all for consensus to direct the city attorney. I will forward her the email. Madam City Attorney, I'd ask you to forward a copy of the email written to me that you were CC'd on to my colleagues so they can view it. And I would ask in the essence of openness for consensus that I can direct the city attorney to respond on my behalf to the email that I received.
And the response.
And the response to
Yeah, thank you.
To receive as well.
Absolutely. Thank you.
So can I get Commissioner Wasserman? Yes. Brody? Really?
Sure.
Okay.
I do ask one thing. Will I be able to get a copy?
Yeah, I mean, I think
Response.
in the essence of it, I would ask the response to be sent. I didn't do anything with it until we were on the dais intentionally. I wanted to address it. I was going to write certain things, but due to the nature of the email, I had a tete-a-tete with our city attorney, and I think it's best to move forward under her guise and her response. Is that acceptable, Madam City Attorney?
Yes, thank you.
And do you believe on the nature of the email that would be the appropriate action that you would recommend moving forward to direct it to you to respond?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So you have consensus by the City Commission. I have nothing further. Is there a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
We're adjourned.